Hello, everyone. It's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, guys, I have Sarah Reynolds, our favorite progressive patriot, with us on the Progressive Soapbox. Sarah, please tell everyone hello.
Hi, and Jamal, thank you so much for having me.
I am happy to have you. Like I said, I came across you. I forget. Like I said, I forget the moment or the inciting moment in which I came across you. And I think I was talking to someone. I think I was talking to Kelly, and I said, "Hey, she's interesting. See, do you mind introducing me? Because I want to get on the show." And just talking about news, politics, and all this other stuff, and digging into your political, let's say, arc, because you're a Bernie supporter that eventually ended up becoming a Trump supporter. Is that fair? Is that true? False? Somewhere in between?
100% true. I loved Bernie, and I thought he was just a cat's meow, and I wanted to just dedicate my life to him. I wanted to move to Washington D.C. for him, and then everything fell apart.
For Bernie Sanders, yeah.
Literally, I thought he was just so amazing, and the way that he got the crowd so excited, I wanted to see that, and possibly even work for him and try to help in some way.
You know what's wild about that? It's hard for people to really get that. Like, I went to a Bernie Sanders rally. They're going to laugh at me when I say stuff like this because they say I'm a fanboy. But I went to a Bernie Sanders rally in Philadelphia. I got off work early. I took a train, and I was on that train for God knows how long to Philadelphia. And we stood out in the freezing cold for like 6 hours, like literally in a line that wrapped around the building like 3 times. Everybody, it was a love fest. Like it was like Woodstock, but a political rally, and everybody there loved everybody, even though nobody knew anybody else. And so it's like all of these people are there. It is freezing cold. Everybody is joking and laughing and slowly walking their way into the building. We finally get into the building after like 5 or 6 hours. Everybody is happy and excited. And the building, I think, holds like 10,000. The building wasn't big enough. Sanders eventually comes and talks to the people outside first, and then comes in to this kind of thunderous roar like a rock star. Now, everybody who's there, it's like a love fest. Like, it's hard to get that across. Like, and to the same degree that Trump rallies were like hate fests, this was an absolute love fest. Like, it was like a hippie rally. It's an amazing thing to be around. It's this weird transcendent experience.
In some ways, it was almost as if Bernie was the inverse of Trump. Yeah. And they both had this magnetism. They just pulled people from all over the country, and they both have this way of speaking that I think is very, I study body language and speech pattern analysis, and they both just get that crowd. And it's almost like they're performing on a stage, a monologue, like a Shakespearean monologue, but it's about populism. And they hone, they're almost like magic hypnotists, okay? They hone right into the heart of the American people, and they get your pain. And I had, it wasn't until Bernie endorsed Hillary that I was like, okay, I'm going to just look at Trump. I'm just going to give him a chance.
That was the moment, that was your demarcation point. I'm done. I'm done.
I cried. He cried. Do you remember when he cried?
I remember.
And I was like, I was so angry. And I thought, she made him cry. She personally made him cry. It wasn't just that he cried. He wasn't just sad. Oh, he woke up one day, the life is terrible. People don't have enough money. They don't have health care. They got to file bankruptcy because they don't have health insurance. I mean, he didn't just wake up one day sad. She made him cry. And I just wanted to burst onto that stage and go, no, you're not going to be president, lady. You're not being president. Forget it. Never going to happen. So I thought, okay, well, then I have to actually work. I have to actually make sure she's not president. I have to do something. Right. Yes. So I watched Trump and I thought, this is creepy, the way that he has a lot of the same mannerisms as Bernie, or maybe Bernie has the same as Trump, but they both talk like your grandpa or your dad telling some dad joke, only it's actually riveting. So they have that in common in a way.
I know what you mean. Sanders, it's this thing of your pain is not purely your own. And that to some degree, that even though all of us have these different walks of life, that ultimately we're united by this idea of class. And splitting us up in this way to some degree weakens us. And this idea of class and economics is a unifying principle in the way that Sanders would go about his affairs. The odd part is that Trump would do something similar, but his was the opposite of I'm blaming immigrants. You know what I mean? Like it was a weird inverse where it's, yes, you're pointing and saying something is a problem here, where Sanders is saying it's that plutocrat and it's the system itself and it's the way this has been rigged against you and this, et cetera, et cetera. Like it's just raw socialist foaming at the mouth populism that is sorely needed and sorely missed. And it's this way of him when he believed that, I think he didn't believe he had a chance of winning. I think he just thought he could push the conversation to the left. He was just unabashed. I'm just ripping the chains off and I'm just going to run. And it was like, holy shit, people like what I'm pushing. And then at that point, it's a whole different matter. So let me ask you this. So your thing was, I want to make her hurt. So I'm voting Trump. The only way I could ensure that it burns and it hurts is that I go for Trump.
Well, it was.
Oh, was there a little more to it than that?
Well, it was more like I want the country to not hurt. I don't want the country, since Bernie can't be president, it can't be Hillary. Because some of my major issues is the closing of Guantanamo. I want Guantanamo Bay to be closed. It was a black site. I want to be done with that chapter in our history where we shouldn't have had that as a black site in the first place. And so I wanted a couple of people who knew I was so passionate about that issue. They DM'd me and they said, you know, Trump's never going to close Gitmo. And I said, I know Hillary will never, ever, ever close Gitmo. So it's not even an issue. That's not even an issue. I was looking at things like Trump saying that he wanted to pull us out of the TPP, which was a huge Bernie thing to get us out of the
for me too.
Yes, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And we know what NAFTA did. We know that NAFTA basically took one of every 4 manufacturing jobs and shipped it overseas or shipped it to Mexico or Canada or other places. So I thought to myself, we cannot have a Hillary presidency where there's absolutely no chance of bringing back manufacturing jobs, none whatsoever. So I think, and this was really interesting to me because I had another really strong Bernie supporter who went to Hillary, and she and I got into a decent argument. And then later she showed me this YouTube video that was showing how some of Trump's comments about immigrants were taken out of context. Now, and I had a lot of my friends were like, Sarah, he wants to deport every illegal immigrant tomorrow. And I said, well, what he's really saying, because I did not hear him say that during rallies, but I heard people say that he was saying that.
Right.
He was saying that he wanted to get rid of the drugs, the flow of drugs and the MS-13 and the immigrants who are committing crime. Now, it's a unique situation for me because I have a DACA friend. Like I have someone who's here and she cannot leave the United States because if she leaves and visits her family in Mexico, and she's much younger than me, and if she leaves, she can never come back. So she's in that situation where she's got the constant cloud over her head and she's worried, but she's got a lawyer and feels like things will probably go okay. And I felt like Trump's rhetoric on making sure there's a pathway to citizenship has gotten very clear. And in fact, it's pissing off some parts of his base because he is being so transparent about actually wanting people who are working, contributing members of society, not criminals. They might as well have some way to become, they're American except for the fact that they came here illegally. So other than that, we ought to get them some way to, get Social Security. They've been paying in anyway for years. So to make them legit citizens. Jamal, all of a sudden I can't see you. Are you there? All of a sudden, I cannot see you or hear you. Just waiting for Jamal to come back. I think we might be having a little technical difficulty. Jamal's coming back in a second, so stay tuned. I see a lot of notifications on Twitter. Hi, I can see you.
Oh, there you are. All right.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay, good. We're back.
I lost my connection. Oh, what is going on?
You're going in and out, but I can see you.
Oh, there it is. Okay, there it is.
Good.
That's so bizarre. I lost connection. It looked like you had froze. This is one of those things like standing on a bus and you're going by a pole and you can't tell if you're moving or if the pole or if the world is moving around you.
That's what happened. It looked like you froze, and I was like, "Hi, come
back." I'm screaming at you. I'm like, "Oh wait, Sarah, come back." Oh, that's hilarious. You were telling me, you were saying how you have a friend who's a DACA recipient.
Yes.
And you were kind of going through this thing of how you were, I guess, dealing with this threat of potentially her being, I guess, whisked away under Donald Trump as a gang terrorist or something to that effect. I would imagine that is somewhat weird.
Well, I basically was telling her, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think you have to worry, is what I was saying to her. I don't think you have to worry. You are not MS-13. You have nothing to do with them.
Now, but you know, there have been a lot of people who weren't MS-13 that was being whisked away. Some people had cancer. Some people were being taken away from hospitals. And many of those people weren't gang members at all. And
you might be right. And
and by the way, this isn't me blaming. That's not at all. I know. Look, let me explain where I'm coming from.
Yes.
I don't blame people for voting for Trump. Like I look at it as, and I thought to myself, it's very possible that Hillary Clinton would have started a war. That's my first point. Meaning the missile defense shield in Syria by itself terrified the hell out of me. I thought that woman is going to start a war. She's going to start a conflict. My second point, I voted for Jill Stein. There's a guy on here, Bob Ramirez. Bob Ramirez says you have tidy hands. Like he didn't want to do the real man's work of voting for Donald Trump. He didn't want Hillary Clinton to win.
That's funny, but
yeah. But that's, you know, what his point is. He's like, you voted Jill Stein and ultimately you wanted Clinton to lose. I don't think I wanted either. I think at the end of the day, I voted for the person who I thought represented my interests. And I thought, and it's not that I thought Stein was going to win. It's that
you're going in and out for me.
Clinton cheated.
You're frozen on me.
My guy.
You went frozen on me. Okay, now you're.
It's me or you? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, now I can see you again. You went frozen on me.
Damn it!
I'm so sorry.
Weird.
But what I heard you say was you voted for the person that represented your interest, which was Stein.
Yeah.
And then it went out. Then you went frozen on me.
Oh yeah, I was just saying I voted for the person who represented my interests. It's not that I wanted. I looked at it as I didn't know who was going to win. I thought more likely than not Clinton was going to win, but I couldn't see how she was going to win when I looked at the states. And I voted for Stein. I said, I can't bring myself to vote for that woman. She cheated my guy. And not to mention, she may start a war. And I don't want that on my conscience. So I don't blame you in the least for voting for Trump, especially after everything that took place with Clinton during those primaries.
In 2000, I voted for Ralph Nader. I mean, there was a time when when he was the person who represented my interests, and he was a Green Party guy, and he was with Winona LaDuke, and they were so cool. And I just thought, Ralph Nader, how can you not vote for him? He's such a cool guy.
I love Nader.
He's so brilliant too. He knows everything. So smart. So I don't know though that Trump having people deported when people are here illegally. Now it's fair to say that I'm probably more of the bleeding heart on that issue. I would be more toward amnesty than against it because, we all were, my relatives, my ancestors were immigrants. They came from France and they came from Ireland, and they were poor. And the only thing they could do was be servants in a house. They were domestic servants. Because
Trump doesn't care about those type of immigrants. He cares about the ones
you know what I mean? I feel like, no, but you know what I'm saying is I understand that we are a nation of immigrants. But we're not voting per issue. We aren't going to the ballots and voting on each issue. We're voting for one person here or one person there. And so Trump got us out of TPP day one. It already felt like a small victory. Yeah. In my mind, he might, this is a long shot, but he might actually be the person to close Guantanamo Bay. We don't know because it's a waste of money. About how he doesn't want to waste so much damn money.
I don't think Republicans care about money. I mean, like, keep in mind when Trump first got elected, when Obama was in office, these guys were like, I'll bleed on a flag before I spend one more dime on my grandfather, my grandchild's, and you had Paul Ryan out there taking out the knife. I'm going to cut myself if I'm going to, flag. And then the moment that Trump gets elected, they increased the debt ceiling by $9 trillion.
Yes, it's insane. Yes.
Yeah, both things can't be true. They can't, at the same token, care about the debt while at the same token raising the debt ceiling by $9 trillion.
But they don't. I don't think Republicans don't. And
they don't.
I don't know.
Care.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I feel like they're corporatists. Yeah. So almost every single member of Congress, almost all the senators, and most of, with the exception of like Justin Amash and
it's like few and far between. Yeah.
Yes. And there's a liberal guy too who's Bernie, but there are several who don't feel like we should take the Federal Reserve and just print money forever. There are several of them who think we need to scale down our defense budget. So the rest of them are corporatists, and it's not even fair to call them a Democrat or Republican because they're just so beholden to lobbyists. And that was the other awesome thing about Bernie is he wanted to stop with the super PACs. He was against Citizens United and the other one, McCutcheon, that just made it so that there could be limitless funds. You could fund anybody and make them say anything because they became beholden to you and your money to reelect them.
It's funny. Tony Blair, I did a story today. Tony Blair was purchased by Saudi Arabia. Now, this was hilarious to me. They gave Tony Blair, I think, like $12 million. And they asked Tony Blair, they said, hey, what do you think about Saudi Arabia? Mind you, they just gave Tony Blair $12 million. He said, this place is modernizing and these guys are, on the uptick. It's like, they just gave them $12 million. What do you think they want to say about Saudi Arabia after they gave them the money? It's the same thing like in politics. These guys lean in the direction of who's paying them. Like, because they know that money is going to be either used against them or it can go into their pockets. And they act like, oh, how dare you bring up the fact that I'm taking money from these sources and, and doing things for the money. Let me ask you this, 2020, what do you think is going to take place in 2020? Do you think Sanders is running again? And second, do you think the same thing is going to happen if he runs again as a Democrat?
No, I don't think he'll run again. And
really?
No, I don't.
Seriously?
No, I don't. I would bet $50 to anybody who wants to take $50. Who wants to bet me $50.
Miss, I may take you up on that.
Okay, all right.
I've already written it down in my book of truth that Bernie Sanders is going to run again.
Well, for real, I want him to run in 2024.
Why 2024? Oh, you want Trump to break whoever runs on the second? Well, he'll be like 150 years old in 2024.
Well, okay.
Rolling him up to the presidency, be giving those speeches in a wheelchair.
I know. I was just going to say he's going to have a cane and be like half blind with the blind glasses. But good. Let him be half blind and have the cane and roll up to the podium, because that's what we need in 2024. But I really think that Trump is going to win because the economy is doing better. And I know that, if we had our libertarian friends on the show, they would say the economy is not. And we also, our Democratic Socialist friends would also say, well, when you stop measuring the long-term unemployment, yes, it looks like everybody has a job.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, the employment,
but the wages are going up.
Funny numbers. Ultimately, it's like, if you stop working, then I don't have to count you into the thing. So it's hard to really get a gauge on how people are doing. And even from that standpoint, it's like, are people happy? Like, how many jobs do people have to work to make ends meet? You had this thing where 60% of the public didn't have $500 in the bank if they had an emergency bill.
Yes,
that's poverty.
It is.
That's half of the country in low wage or poverty. Even when Obama was in office, I think 95% of the wealth went to the top 1%, and 95% of the jobs created were low wage or part time. Now he was chest thumping us as if this was some big to do, when really you realize that these people were just struggling. Like, these people were in gig jobs trying to make ends meet. I don't know. Let me say it this way. I would hope Sanders runs in 2020. I really do. I just don't know how old he'll be in 2024. I just think he'll be ancient. And I gotta be honest, I don't know if I want Trump for another 4 years. I want Trump to be broken. Now, it depends on who breaks it. If it's Sanders, great. If it's Kamala Harris, that's okay. Trump can win.
Okay, but jobs, good manufacturing jobs, are coming back. And I'm a person. I do. And I'm originally from St. Paul, Minnesota, and we had a Ford plant there, and a credit union that I belonged to was basically originally the Ford employee credit union, and then it got, as you know, the banks have been bought up, and so have the credit unions been bought up. So there's fewer and fewer options. But I got to meet a lot of people who were originally Ford employees and got laid off. So we were talking about people making $25 to $30 an hour, good wages. And then, more than good. That's a real living wage job that you could work the rest of your life and retire comfortably. And then all of a sudden, they're, 6 months of unemployment or a year of unemployment, depending on when in the history they got laid off. And then all of a sudden, they're going to get $12, $13 an hour jobs, even if it's above minimum wage by $5 or $6.
That's crushing. Yeah,
it's crushing. Your morale is just shot. You feel like garbage. And if Trump could really, truly, and he's starting to, he's gotten many, many companies to commit. See, now for me, and I've got a lot of family that's working class Democrat, people who voted blue their whole life, factory workers, people who got laid off in the late 70s. And when they look at it, when we have the conversation at home over dinner, Sunday dinner, or out barbecuing in the garage, what we talk about is, if those jobs come back, they better be $25 an hour jobs. Because to take people and put them in a factory job, which if you've ever worked in a factory, you're standing all day, you have a break at an exact set time, and you have to, there's no you could get away with 16 or 17 minutes. Like, I've worked in many call centers. You can get away with 16, 17 minutes if your second break is only 13 minutes.
Yeah.
But when you are in a factory, if the bell rings, you got to be on and you got to be off. They make you work overtime. It's forced overtime, and it's physical labor. It's
now, why do you think the jobs are coming back? Now, why do you think the factory jobs are coming back? Now, I know when Trump was putting on the tariffs, especially with the trade war, Trump has had to take $14 or $15 billion and put it to the side because of the trade tariffs that were hitting the farmers, or potentially was going to hit the farmers. Why do you think that the jobs are coming back? What are you seeing that's saying that factory jobs are coming back to this country?
They haven't come back, so that's fair to say. And this is exactly the same conversation that I'm having with you is the one that I have with people in my family who are like, he's gotten, Trump has done his magic. Trump has done his Bernie magic, his hypnotist, stage phenomenon magic, where he gets companies to commit to bringing jobs back. But will they actually bring the jobs back?
No, they're never going to.
Let me tell you this.
Those companies have a capitalistic impulse to maximize their profits. If that means to have a job, to ship a job overseas where they can pay $3 an hour and then ship the product back to the United States, they're going to do it. There's no browbeating that Trump is going to do that's going to get those companies to do something that is against their fiscal interests.
Well, you spoken like a true economist. I mean, responding to incentives. I mean, Jamal, do you have a degree? Do you have an advanced degree in econ? Because that's exactly what they teach. I've only taken 2 economics classes, and then half of another one. But that's what they say is that you're absolutely right. That
if you give cynical SOB.
Yeah. But now Trump, what he did when the tax reform was passed and it gave the big corporations, a ton of tax cuts for their corporate tax rate. Well, here's one. I'm actually giving evidence now to your point, not to mine. But
thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to help you. So, but you're right. I think you're right, and it makes my heart break a little. So, AT&T is one of those companies that said they would expand jobs. They'd create 4,000 jobs.
Right.
They laid off 1,000 people.
Right there.
And I got the petition in my email because I'm still on all those lists that I've been on for 15 years. And I signed the petition. I was like, AT&T, you give me those people those jobs. You said you were going to do it. And it was devastating to me because AT&T said they would create 4,000 jobs. Then they freaking got 1,000.
See, I'm realizing how cynical I am. I've been somewhat broken and contorted in this society. More cynical than maybe I should be. It never occurred to me those people were going to bring those jobs. I assumed 2 things. When Trump gave that tax cut, I assumed they were going to take that money and put it in their pocket and say thank you, or buybacks. And they did do the buybacks.
They did.
I in no way did I assume they were going to give their employees back money, because to them, I earned this. This is my money, and there's no tether on the money at all. I assumed they were going to say thank you for the cash and put it in their pockets. I'm curious, from your standpoint, how does it, and I don't mean this in an emotional way, and again, God damn it, some way I'm asking these questions, but I don't mean these questions in a way that there's no hint of negativity in the question. The question is purely just because I'm curious from the perspective itself. Is there any level of, Trump does, so for example, if I voted for, let's say I voted for Clinton and Clinton puts a missile defense shield in Syria, would I feel some kind of way about the missile defense shield being in Syria saying she may start a war? Is there something to that effect where there's like, oh, God damn it, I voted for this guy for this other thing, but this is gross, like that type of feeling associated with it? Or is it, this sucks now, but this allows for an opportunity later on? Because I do think it allows for an opportunity later on from the standpoint of making something real change that I don't think that would have been there if Hillary Clinton was elected. Well,
I do think that some of those jobs are going to come back. I don't know for sure. Okay. And my biggest thing would be if he could get Apple to bring one Chinese factory to California and pay people $25 an hour to make an iPhone. And an iPhone is what, $600? I would pay $900 if it was made by an American person here. I mean, yeah. I have to pay monthly anyway. I mean, I don't own this phone outright. Every month I pay my bill and I pay $23 extra a month to buy this phone.
Well, they have you over a barrel. That's the only reason. It's like they can say this phone, $10,000 for this phone, and you can pay in installments. Aren't you happy? Like that type of weird, shenanigans where it's hard to know what phone costs and all.
But there's no interest. And I'm not saying good or bad, there shouldn't be any interest. But what I'm saying is I would pay $30 instead of $23 if it meant that an American person with good benefits made that phone.
Agreed.
And I think that closer to re-election time, if none of those jobs have come back, I know very specifically that a few of my own friends and family members are not going to vote for him again. They're waiting for the jobs. He said jobs and they want jobs. Now, it's hard. Employers are having trouble filling jobs. So that's another way that that there is a legit competitive job market, because we, the worker, have the advantage at this point. So that's good. But I just want to see if it actually translates into benefits and high wages.
Well, they never said in some of the analysis that has taken place up to this point, the wages didn't go up. I mean, ultimately, the tax cuts were given. The tax cuts went into the people's pockets, meaning the top 1% got theirs, but nothing translated or trickled down to the people who were at the bottom, or just the regular, worker class stiff, who essentially is going to have a tax increase through that tax cut. Because it's a tax increase on us, like the regular person with an X number, I forget the number of years, but at a certain point, the sunshine period goes away, and the taxes on the poor and the middle class were raised in order to pay for the taxes for the plutocrats.
Well, I hear what you're saying, because I had this conversation with another person who just chose not to vote at all in 2016 because she was so disgusted
they were just so
by everything.
Disheveled. Yeah, they were like, "Oh God, I can't bring myself."
Yeah, she was like, exactly. And so we were talking about the law, and she said, it expires. It's going to expire, and then the working person making 30 grand a year, or let's get real, more like 22 or 24 grand a year, that working person, will lose their tax cut, and the ones at the top remain. And I said, well, then it becomes a campaign issue, and it becomes an issue where Congress will have to campaign on, each senator and each representative is going to have to say, I'm for continuing this tax cut, even for the lowest income tiers.
But do you know how brutal that is? I mean, ultimately, the people who the most advantage in this society itself, there are people in California taking dumps on the street. This is so gross to me. Like in California, it's like, oh God, it's the most lefty state, and what the hell? It just always kills me that much. Like that it goes to the top where it's just a digit in their account. It's not even real. It's just like, that's nice. There's another digit there. Oh, that's so cute. Let me go to my third house. Let me ask you something else. So 2020. So you don't believe Sanders is going to run in 2020. Who do you think will run in 2020?
Well, and can I please tell you, this is why I don't think Sanders will do it, because he actually has integrity. He actually is a person who has integrity. And I know a lot of people are angry that he's not standing up for the DNC fraud lawsuit, and that is totally fair, and he should be. But I think they've got him by the short hairs. That's what I think. I think they've got him.
They got him by the short hairs. I'm curious. See, I thought he was towing a particular line, because I agree with you. I do think it's like every time he squeaks a particular way, they grab one of those hairs. It's like one of the hairs that it's like, oh God, it hurts. It hurts. And he just steps up. Because I think if he wants to run in the race, in the primaries, he has to toe a line. He has to, walk a particular walk. He has to quack like a duck and everything else. Now, why don't you think he's going to run in 2020? I'm curious.
Because he won't run as a Democrat, and now they changed the laws, or they changed their bylaws. The DNC changed their bylaws that only someone who's a Democrat can run.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'll switch from independent to Democrat.
He did before.
Well, no, he just ran on that ticket. He didn't actually change himself to Democrat. He's still an I.
No, when Sanders ran before, he changed himself to a Democrat. He changed himself back. Don't get me wrong. He's now an independent. He's the independent senator from Vermont currently. But when he ran in that primary, he actually did become a Democrat. When they kept saying, he's not even a Democrat, he's not a Democrat. And people were like, well, is there some, mythical thing that you have to do in order to become a Democrat? No, he just became a Democrat.
I did not know that.
He did become a Democrat for a while. And the wild part about it, when Sanders runs, you're right about when he runs in Vermont. You're right about that part. Where he does this thing where he would run in the race as a Democrat, even though he's an independent, and then he would deny the Democratic thing. He would say, no, I am not going to accept the Democratic nomination, which means he gets rid of all the Democratic opposition. He runs as an independent against a Republican. In the primary, he became a Democrat for that period of time, and he ran as a Democrat.
So, okay, I did not know that at all.
Yeah, he shredded whatever, I can't think of a colorful way of saying it, but he became a Democrat for a short period of time.
But isn't that why the DNC changed the rules? I thought that they changed the rules so that he couldn't run.
So it seemed, part of me thinks they changed it to be dickish. That's the first part. The second part, I think they changed it for that very reason in Vermont. Now, I know a lot of people have talked about this lawsuit, but I think they're missing this. I think this boils down to what he does in Vermont. where they're terrified. Imagine for the moment that Sanders runs in the primary and then he denies the nomination as a Democrat and runs as an independent for the president of the United States, which would mean there's a Republican versus an independent. And for the first time in God knows how long, the Democrat is not on the ballot. I think their thing is, we want to ensure that what he does in Vermont is not something that he's going to replicate when he does in the main election itself. That's what I think. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I think. Because when Sanders runs, he will run as a Democrat if he runs at all.
Now, if he ran as an independent, that would be a whole different story for me. I would love an independent. Yeah.
Now, what do you think would happen as an independent? So I'm mixed feelings on this. I think if Sanders was trying to build a party now, like if at the end of that process, he said, I'm going to grab Ocasio-Cortez, I'm going to grab Nina Turner, Tulsi Gabbard, and we're going to start something else. Yes, maybe. But as an independent just by himself, do you think that would work?
Well, it might be another Perot situation, but if it was just him, see, I think the Democratic Party is dying, is a slow bleeding corpse. I really don't think that can be resurrected. Okay, it would take a true miracle, and I think Bernie should run as an independent. I think he should, and I think he should find someone. What I think would be amazing is if he ran with someone who is kind of libertarian, because then you'd get the best of both worlds, and you would appeal to many, many people. Because a lot of people are freaking out, and they're saying, "Oh no, the Democratic Party is becoming the socialist party because of Ocasio."
Yeah,
and the idea that we can't have a $15 an hour minimum wage is almost absurd to me.
It's absurd. Like, yes. She's just a Democrat. I heard Sargon make a hit video about Ocasio, and he found the fringiest elements of Democratic Socialists, ran with it, and did an entire video on it, missing the point that she never said any of that stuff. Like, her platform, for all intents and purposes, is just the platform of an FDR Democrat. That's it. That's all it is. She has it. When she talks about it, she's talking about like Sweden or Denmark. She's not talking about, you know, some I'm trying to think of some government like Ukrainian, like the anarchist Ukrainian government. There's nothing like that. It's
right.
Talking about like Sweden, Denmark, that type of stuff. That's not insane. I mean, what she's saying is just straightforward. Hey, should we have a society where people aren't living on the street and people have a decent meal and somewhere to stay? Yeah, I think so.
And exactly. And when you think about it, you know, $15 an hour is slightly more than 30 grand a year. It's
not much.
You finally. What I tell people, especially in the Twin Cities when I lived in St. Paul, and I was very active with signing those petitions and sending postcards for 15 now. What it would do in St. Paul, just the cost of living in St. Paul, and I'm not even talking about DC and New York, where clearly it should be $15 an hour.
Yeah.
But all it would do in St. Paul is it would kick you off your SNAP and your subsidized housing, and you would break even. It would be the same. It would be, you know, before you were making $9.50, now you're making $15. You still have the same amount of money left over at the end of the month, which is to say like $100. It's because you no longer would qualify for SNAP or subsidized housing or Minnesota Care, which was our in-state version of
like Obamacare.
No, it was real.
Oh, healthcare.
It covered everybody who was poor.
Oh,
everybody under a certain income, you only had to pay. I mean, it was ridiculously cheap.
But it was good healthcare.
And it was paid for by 2%, a 2% charge on every other health service that somebody else who had insurance would go get. They would pay a 2% tax, and then that funded Minnesota Care. And to my mind, could we not make it a 5% tax and then nobody has to pay insurance? I mean,
this seems so much like common sense to me. Where
yes.
Well, I don't like the idea that the jobs themselves, the businesses, have to take on the burden of healthcare. I hate that. That sucks for the workers and it sucks for the companies, especially when the companies are competing with companies across the world.
Yes.
Because, you know, you're talking about like Germany, England, those type. They have healthcare. They're not their businesses are supplementing the healthcare on top of, you know, not to mention that may be higher wages for the person. Not to mention cheaper for the entire country. Like, it makes more sense on so many levels. Makes more sense.
So many.
You have a video and it Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
This is going to deviate from politics.
Oh, tell me what you
deviate from politics. So Myers-Briggs test. And I've done the Myers-Briggs test. I think this was like years ago. I think it was like an INTJ, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I'm that now. So I did one recently because I know sometimes you change over time as you go with your life. I did one today, and this test nailed me. So I came back as a ENTPA. Now, they call it the debater. Now, I'm laughing at this. My wife is going to fall out laughing at this because this is, for all intents and purposes, me. Now, this is a hard dog to keep on the porch at times. And she's gotten to the point where they have like little signals for their family. And I didn't know this. This was happening behind my back where I didn't know nothing about it. Apparently, one of the, all of us went out for lunch one day, and I was with her family, and her family has a brother, and the brother had a girlfriend that was not wrapped tight. Now, the woman was like, Obama is Kenyan, and Obama snuck over here as a man. Like, it was that type. Oh. And I'm at the table, like, digging into this, questioning, like really digging into this particular thing, because I'm like, this woman is nuts. And if I just question one more question, it would get across how nuts she is. And it was, the shackles will fall from her eyes, and she would be a new person, and I could save her life. And my wife and everybody at the table apparently is like, bail, stop, call it a day. So from here on out, apparently, whenever I'm talking to somebody who's in their family, they're like keeping an eye to make sure the conversation doesn't go too ridiculous. It's like, I can't believe you guys have to do that. Yeah. I love this. So what was yours? Was yours
INFJ?
INFJ. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember fully what. Okay. Intuitive. I don't remember what the N.
Introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging.
Feeling and judging. That's it. Feeling and judging.
You got the T and the P. Okay, so basically you're TP and I'm FJ.
Yeah.
They get along very well because you're more thinking and I'm more feeling, but the judging compensates for being feeling and the perceiving compensates for being so thinking. So it works out really good. I mean, really, that's good. That's a great.
Well, we've had an awesome conversation.
Yes. And can I just say, I think that we will have single payer someday.
I think it has to be. I mean, I don't know how. If Donald Trump, man, he doesn't realize the opportunity that he had when he took office. I don't think he does. Donald Trump could have ran against the Republican Party. Like literally, he could have said, I told everybody I was going to have big, beautiful healthcare. I'm trying to do big, beautiful healthcare. He just said it. Now, even if no Republican would have signed on for it, they would have thought he was nuts, but he would have really said, I tried to do this. I'm joining hand with the Democrats and I'm going to try to make this work. It's nonsense. He doesn't try to make it, but it doesn't matter. Like, ultimately, the public would see, wow, the president is trying to keep with his word. If you would have tried to get healthcare, I mean, even minimum wage to $10 an hour, like the minor stuff that he could have gave away in order to get that tax cut without people flipping out about the way he was doing it. He had an amazing opportunity to own that office, and he squandered it magnificently.
But wait, do you know that there's actually footage of him on YouTube talking about single payer and how we should have a system like Canada?
That's amazing.
People throw it in his face all the time, and I want to be one of them.
I want to meet him.
I want to meet him and go, Mr. President, you are that strong alpha male that wants to take the whole tribe, the whole country under your wing. You want to envelop them in the cocoon of love, the cocoonoflove.gov. and I think he, in his heart, he wants people to have healthcare because he knows it's ridiculous.
Are you serious? No way.
No,
I am so much more cynical than you.
But what you said about how it's not fair to put it on the businesses, that's bullshit. It should be a federal tax. You know how we pay for our freeways and our highways with a gasoline tax.
But I have to believe that this unempathetic person cares, and I don't think he cares.
Wait, why
Donald Trump has been out. Say it again.
Why do you think he's unempathetic?
He's been out there murdering people 4 times at the rate that Obama was murdering people with drones. Now, I would imagine, I don't know how you settled that on your conscience. I don't know how Obama settled that on his conscience. So I don't know how Trump settled that on his conscience. But that seems pretty brutal to me. I mean, and it seems like anybody that cared at all about human beings would know. Like Obama, one of the positive things that he did, even, minor, it was incremental, was to take it from the CIA and put it in front in the military with this idea of you can have eyes on the number of people that you murder. Now, Mike, they were still murdering people with drones. They didn't stop it. But at the very least, there was potentially an eye on it where you can, it's like, all right, dude, you guys are killing people. This looks bad. Putting it under the CIA was allowing them to put this in the shadows, meaning the number of people that Trump was actually killing to some degree was being hidden by the fact that it was in the CIA. I mean, even the Hispanic thing, where he's the border stuff, like none of this stuff reeks to me as if he cares. The destruction of Obamacare, him literally trying to destroy Obamacare and giving people worse healthcare with Trump care. None of this comes across to me as if this is Trump being a loving guy. This comes across as Trump out for Trump. Am I wrong?
Yes. Okay.
I love it.
Now listen. Now wait.
Yes.
Do you know how many petitions I signed to end the drone strikes while Obama was in office?
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know if you would tweet later so I can look at the links that you're looking at. But as far as I know, the CIA and the Department of Defense are still doing the drone strikes.
Oh, yes,
both.
they are.
Okay, so it didn't just go over to the Pentagon. They're still both doing them.
Oh, yeah, they're still both doing them. I guess my point is the number have dramatically increased by like 4. Like they're saying that the number of drone strikes that Trump has been doing has dramatically increased, and the number of deaths of those drone strikes has dramatically increased.
Okay, I got to Google that. You got to send me the link because I did not know that. Okay. Because some of these things, I'm real focused. And I think a lot of people who know me know that I hone in on something and then I'm totally concentrated on that. So for me, it's like, I want the $15 an hour minimum wage. I want the single payer healthcare. I don't want universal basic income. I don't want that. But I do want, I want that individual mandate gone. I don't think that that's constitutional.
The wild part about it, when Obama was running, people forget this. Nobody remembers this. He was running against Hillary Clinton, who said she was for the individual mandate.
Yes.
And Obama was against the individual mandate during the primaries. I distinctly remember this because I remember after the election and he's like individual mandate. I was like, wait a minute, you were running against that.
He wanted a public option. He wanted a public option. I mean, I was crying. I was actually like real tears. I was like, what have we done? And Michael Moore, remember the day after it was passed, Obamacare was passed, and Michael Moore said, well, now we all are forced to give our money to health insurance companies. Thank you very much. Yeah. And it was like Romney Care. So if Obamacare goes completely away, I'm glad because it's going to force us. This is my thought. Okay, Ocasio's going to win. More and more people that are for single-payer healthcare are going to win. You probably know this. 70 Democrats in the House signed on to a Medicare-for-all bill.
Conyers,
and people are freaking out like, oh no, it's going to be like the NHS. But the truth is, it could be whatever we want it to be. That's just the starting board. Yeah. It's just a rough draft. We can make it whatever we want.
And mind you, the NHS is the United States is rated like 33rd for healthcare. I mean, Cuba is above us. The NHS, I think, is like 5th.
It's not bad. It's good.
Yeah.
They've got some issues, but we have more issues. Here, the leading cause of bankruptcy is hospital bills. Yeah. I mean, that's immoral. So you got to send me the drone link, but just as the only reason I brought that all up is because I get more focused on the other things. And I'm also really focused on, I want to get rid of this whole Russian collusion narrative because it's bullshit. Yeah. I just want us to and I can't believe that people are hating each other because of this. Clearly it was the Obama people. Clapper just said the other day, Obama directed us to be doing this whole thing, watching the Trump campaign. So we got to get over that. I want to get over that because I don't want to not be able to be friends with people because I tell them I voted for Trump and they hate me without me having to go into a 15-minute backstory and go, well, I voted for Nader. I voted for Obama twice. I campaiged with a grassroots campaign. I was a burner. I mean, don't hate me. Being
clearly racist and sexist. Seeing as
I'm like, please don't say that. I love Bernie.
It's like racist, sexist, xenophobic, and every other thing that you can add to it.
I want jobs. I literally try to tell people I want the manufacturing jobs to come back. I want the union jobs. I want $25 an hour jobs, real jobs.
I want real jobs too. I agree with you. I don't think our issue is jobs. I think that issue is fulfillment, and I think those things are somewhat different. I want freedom, not necessarily a job. If a job brings it fair enough, but I don't necessarily want. It's like jobs can be plantations. Yes, I want people to have jobs. We just have a weird way of organizing ourselves. We have finite resources. And with those finite resources, we try to burn through those resources as fast as we can possibly burn through them, because that's what we consider giving somebody a job. That makes no sense. And yet that's the way we organize ourselves. That's why I chafe at this thing of, do we need more jobs, or do we need a different system in the way we organize ourselves? I suspect that's more of a long organization, but it's hard to get that across to people. So I end up with yes, more jobs. I bow down to the god of jobs in a sense, with this idea of trying to move us slowly along. What I wish, though, is that we stop going back to the 50s. Like, the plans that we have, it's like we need more unions. It's like, yes, unions are great, but worker co-ops are better because it gets rid of the contradiction between the elite versus the other people in the thing.
I agree. Worker co-ops, yes.
But Sanders never, like, I've heard Sanders give speeches on this stuff, and the best that Sanders can do is unions. It is like, yes, unions are great for what we got. But if you're talking about taking a bully pulpit, you will have at your disposal the capacity to assist in the creation of worker co-ops from the federal government level. I mean, imagine, you say any job, instead of jobs being sent overseas, if a company wants to be sold, fair enough, you have to offer it to your workers first, and the federal government, will give the workers dibs on a loan in order to pay for it. Like, there's options and ways that you can go about trying to propagate these things. Those jobs are not going to be shipped overseas. And at the end of the day, the people who are in those jobs are going to be paid more. And you get rid of the elite, like you get rid of that elite class of CEO, or the kind of like the kings and queens, where people think they need royalty in this sense. They don't need it.
And I know you know the statistic, okay, but I just want to say this, because whenever people tell me, how are we going to do $15 an hour, or how are we going to do that? I always say to this, it's them, I always cite this statistic. In 1980, and it's easy to remember because 1980 was the year I was born, the average worker to CEO pay ratio was 42-1. So, which is, okay, so that's like 42 levels from the mid-range. But it's in 2013, it was 353-1.
Wow.
So clearly, and it's exactly what you said, all after the recession ended it didn't really end, but when they said it ended in 2012, 95% of all that wealth was actually transferred to the top 1/10 of 1%. And people will talk about the 1% all the time. And I always want to say, hold on, it's the 1/10 of 1%. Yeah. And it's shocking how, and what I always want to say to people is, you person out there complaining to me that $15 an hour is crazy, you are making 60 grand when your job would have been an 80 grand job 20 years ago.
You know what's wild about that? I'm always weirded out by people making arguments like that. It's like $15 an hour. I mean, that's so much. It's like, why are you complaining about somebody else making a decent living? Like, why? It's like, it's like that guy shouldn't get $15 for fixing French fries. Why not?
Why? He has to stand all day. Yeah. I've worked in a coffee shop. It's not as hot as standing over the fryer. The fryer's worse, but you're standing for 8 hours. You don't get a break. What they do is they schedule you for 4 hours from like 7 to 11, and then your next shift is 2 to 6. So you have to leave and come back.
I guess my point is the argument is structured in the way of it's structured in a way from the top down. It's just a weird way of arguing. It's like, why wouldn't you want them to get 15? And why wouldn't you want to get more? Like, instead of saying, oh God, I can't believe that person gets 15, I get 15. Why not? Maybe you should get more money.
Yes.
Maybe my guy should get 15 and you should get more. Like, instead of looking at it from the standpoint of that person should get less, why not take it from the standpoint of that person should get more? And for whatever reason, this is kind of what I mean when I say we like the media and everything else has all of these people who are in media are the top 1%. Like, they're the top 0.1%. Like, the perspective of the media that you get from Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, the objective point of view are literally just plutocrats, all of them. And so the point of view that they're giving you, and to some degree, the point of view that we've accepted, is theirs. Now, it makes sense for them to make that argument of, if this guy makes $15, I mean, you make $15. I mean, do you really want that guy to make $15? As opposed to, well, yeah, that guy should make $15 an hour. He's a person, he's working all day, and I should make more because I'm doing. It's just a weird way where we accept the argument of attacking the person at the bottom. I hate that argument. I hate that structure.
Exactly. And whenever I was talking about 15 now to people, I would explain that needs to be the new floor. So you should be making way more than you make. It's crazy. Yeah. And for example, I was a debt collector for many, many years. And in
you horrible person.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And in 2002, the starting wage at a particular agency was $16 an hour. And then in 09 or in 08, right around 08, 09, they lowered it down to $9 an hour. I mean, and they could be, and then wages never really recouped. So
but for example, they can do that across the board anyway. Like think of the wages. Half of the jobs in this country are low wage and minimum wage, like essentially service sector jobs. Those jobs, for the most part, are at the whim of whoever is hiring. I used to work at this company where they would hire and fire in a heartbeat because, for the most part, it was only one or few companies in that area. And if they didn't like something that you were doing, they would get rid of you in a heartbeat. It didn't matter one iota. Yeah. It's like service job workers, for the most part, are to some degree disposable in the way they go about their ways, in the way that it works out.
That's how they are at the Amazon fulfillment centers.
Yeah.
They just treat people like human garbage and they go faster. You don't get a break. You know, your bathroom, you have to walk 5 minutes to get to the bathroom, but then you only have 5 minutes in the bathroom and 5 minutes that you have to get back to your position, or they dock your pay by the minute. I mean, yes.
No. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Those jobs should be, if you're in an Amazon fulfillment center and your eyes are straining to pick shit up and you're putting it in a damn box and you're sweating, any job, as Jesse Ventura says, any job where you're sweating all day, I'm sorry, but you are not sitting in your cushy chair, pushing your mouse around. I mean, and even if you are pushing your mouse around, that's a job too. That's important too. Everybody's job is important. You can't buy from Amazon if you think, I mean, I don't think you can ethically and morally buy from Amazon if you think that slaves should be putting your crap and they can't even afford to put gas in their car. They can't even afford a car. They have to take.
What I would say is my wife likes to buy cheap stuff from Amazon. And if they paid those people a decent wage, my wife would have to pay $1.50 more in order to buy her products. And I'm saying that halfway jokingly because I think because you're right. I mean, it's like we don't look at the bottom guy in the totem pole. We just want our advantage. It's like somebody shopping at Walmart. It's like, you know, that person may not even be able to feed themselves for Thanksgiving, but you get to have your cheap crap from China that you know, are able to get from Walmart. Man, you're so right about that. I really wish workers had a certain solidarity among themselves, where they say we have a bottom level of what we're willing to accept. And for whatever reason, society doesn't look at it that way. We don't look at ourselves as a collective. We look at ourselves as these individual atomized units of society as opposed to just these one collective worker. And I'm saying that in a weird way, but I don't think you can pull that off if workers were collective or looked at themselves as a class and as a collective.
I don't know what the answer is, because I see the libertarian argument for the individual and I see the socialist argument for we're all a human race. I mean, you're literally basically when you work in a team, almost most jobs, you're basically in the canoe, the big long canoe. And if the other person doesn't paddle, you're going nowhere. Yeah. So everybody's got to work together. So I totally see that. I think we have an unspoken caste system. That's my opinion. I think that people look down on the coffee shop worker. They look down on the McDonald's worker. And it's like, well, you know what? You sure go to McDonald's when you're hungry. You sure go to KFC when you get in the mood for some biscuit and gravy. So can you stop with that person shouldn't have enough money to live?
But see, right there, it's like the argument that I think people should make, especially from this thing around taxes and everything else, is if you want to have a decent society, meaning that person who's that top 1% who believes that he should get more and more tax cuts. That guy wants to walk down the street without people, you know, without hellscape demons coming after him, trying to rip his pockets and wallet out. He wants to be able to talk to the coffee shop worker without her trying to rip money out of his pocket because she's barely making ends meet. He wants to be able to get the fire department when his building is on fire, get the police. He wants to brief me. He wants to use all of these things that are part of a society, not just air and everything else, like the people who make that society function and the people who make that society work. And he should be willing, or she should be willing, to pay for it. And the workers themselves need to know that. Like, Like the most aggravating part of that is the workers themselves don't seem to get that point.
No, they don't. And it's really hard. That's why the worst part about it is breaking it to them that once you make $15 an hour, you won't qualify for any handouts anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the worst part, because 15 really isn't enough.
Yeah.
I mean, and then there's this other lie that, oh, it's just an entry level job. Well, the original phrase was entry level position. There are jobs, and then there's an entry level position where you're starting and you're working your way up in a company. But a job is different from an entry level position, and a job should be just as valid, because if you're giving your time, you ought to have enough money to live. And it's worth noting that only 5% of Americans make more than $100,000 a year. And we're talking about
that. That's it. Just 5%.
It's shocking because that includes a family of 4 where, let's say, mom, has an Avon business out of her office. Okay. I mean, literally she makes like, $3,000 a year, but it's serious. And then, but dad and the two kids have a summer job only. But the dad is the one that works for a defense contractor and makes, $120,000 a year. That's only that whole 4 people, that whole family is the part of the top 5%. Wow. And it's so few people are actually, they say that your level of happiness peaks at right around 75 grand. And the level of satiation is 90 grand. This is just in our culture, in our dollars, of course. And you'd have to adjust it for Canadian dollars or whatever. Yeah. But after 100,000, happiness actually declines, because you start thinking about, does my Louis Vuitton purse convey my social status? And that is it bums me out, because I had a friend of mine who has a college degree and is a teacher at a college, a professor. He and I just couldn't talk. And I wanted to say more. And I just knew that our friendship would be endangered if I went into the $15 an hour spiel. But I knew this boomer man, okay? And I'm fascinated by the generations. I'm just fascinated. And he was in this peace group. And he and I were on a trip from the group had a little retreat, okay? And he was giving me a ride home because I didn't have a car at the time. And we were chatting about how there's a university in St. Paul called St. Catherine University. And he had a degree in sociology and got offered a job by them in the 70s. Oh, and he told me, yes. And he told me what they offered him. And he said, it just wasn't enough. I knew I could get paid more somewhere else. Now, I had seen the tax returns of professors at St. Thomas College, which is right down the road. They used to be the brother-sister school. Now they're both. Okay. So the dollar amount he gave me, I said, could you hold on? That actually sounds very good to me. I would like to put that into the inflation calculator. So I went to dollartimes.com/inflation calculator, put in the wage, and it would have been 75 grand in today's money. Wow. Nobody's making 75 grand, not tenured professors at St. Catherine University. I talked to them. They told me how much they make. They almost all make between 40 and 50 grand. And it's a business model. Now the person at the top, the provost, is making $250,000 a year, driving a Mercedes. And I don't care. I'm saying, fine. I am not saying you shouldn't make $250,000 a year if you're running a college. You should. But why can't your professors make 150? Yeah. Why can't they make 150? And this whole deal about college degree isn't worth anything anymore. Well, you know what? It's worth it to me just to know the knowledge. The knowledge is fascinating to me. I wish I could. I only have 2 years of it. And I'd love to go back and take more economics classes and more philosophy. And you know what? Philosophy is the most fascinating thing in the world. You can't get a degree with it. The only thing it does for you is gets you eligible to go to law school. That's it. But I don't care. I would, if I had the time and the money, I would go just for the knowledge. And that's why we need trade schools for people who just, they just want to work. But you and me, I think we're modern day philosaphers, aren't we?
I would love to go for history and politics.
Yes, history.
I would love to go for history and political science in a heartbeat.
Jared Beck went for, he talked about how he was going to go get the PhD in political science, and then he switched over to law. But I mean, yes, why isn't that just a beautiful thing? My goal for our society would be if we could say, some people should go to trade school. Some people don't even need to go to an advanced college. They could just go straight to an awesome factory job and make $80,000 a year. Fantastic. Yeah. But if you and I want to go and get a degree in philosophy just because it's amazing. Aren't we doing a service by trying to find solutions for, society?
Look, I think school should be open in general. Like if you go to Germany, you can go to school for free. If you can make it there, I think it should be open. Look, are we better off as a society with people who are educated in this society if they want to be educated? Yes. Does it take, this idea of does it take the chains off of creativity in a society when you have anybody in that society that wants to go to school for as long as they want to go to school for that society? Yes. And that should be something that we strive for. I am on board. Yes, I agree with you.
We should never have marketed it as you have to have a degree to be a manager of a call center. When I worked for Target Corp and I was in their collections department, I've worked for so many companies in their collections department, but it was for bad checks written at the store. I would call people if they wrote a bad check. And they made it, this is maybe insane to me. They made it so that you could not be a team lead, which is their Target speak for manager, unless you had a college degree. Really? Why? I mean,
because they can be that level of skeptical when you have a huge number of people who are trying to get into the job. And it's from their standpoint, they're like, we can get this now because for the most part, we have X number of people who are looking for a job in a particular way.
Like go
ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, what you said is brilliant, but I actually think it's much more sinister. Okay, I think it's actually to create an additional level in the caste system. I think it's to create this additional, like because you have this degree and you're a manager, you are now in a superior level than the people in the team below you. But in my mind, if I'm just the person on the entry level and I'm just calling people, I'm the base pay person, and every year I get a 3 to 5% raise or whatever, my manager is superior and not morally superior, but they're the higher rank just because they're the higher rank. She or he doesn't have to have a degree to tell me what to do. They're my boss. Right. Why can't we all get paid enough money and all treat each other with respect? You don't have to have a degree for me to treat you with respect. You're my boss. You worked here longer. You have more experience. I'm going to do what you tell me to do, as long as you don't tell me to be horrible.
You are preaching to as long as you don't tell me to be horrible. But the thing is, though, talking about that part, social responsibility is not necessarily something that's part of the job. In fact, your responsibility at that point is to the job, even if that job wants you to do something that's somewhat horrible. Like I was one of the companies I was working in. They mentioned something where they were trying to sell something, and because they couldn't get anybody to buy it, they tried to stuff the cost in a different way. Like it's like trying to hide it. And I spoke up about it, and the guy who owns the company is a real nice guy. He's like, "Wait a minute, I don't want to do anything unethical." Like he just kind of pulled right, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And somebody was like, he says, "Yeah, what do we have, a socialist here?" And it's like, you're a socialist just because you don't want to do something unethical? Are you fucking kidding me? Now, but that's not, I don't think that's uncommon. Like I think every day, all throughout the United States, all throughout the world, conversations like that take place.
Yes.
And I would imagine that the people who are in those companies usually just say, I got to keep my job. I'm putting my head down. I'm doing what they tell me to do. It's a totalitarian system. I'm doing what they tell me to do. Like, it's not like a democratically, run system where you have some agency within the company itself in the way that you organize your affairs. Like you say, you have tiers. You have this guy who's supposedly superior to you within the organization itself, and you are subordinate, almost like working on a plantation, even though you choose the plantation. I agree with you. I guess my thing is, that's not freedom. That's something else. And we use this kind of propaganda to tell each other or tell people that this is freedom. This is the highest form of society. All of these people are Fukuyamas. This is the end of the world and all this other stuff.
Sarah, it is indentured servitude.
Said it one more time. I heard servitude.
It is indentured servitude. When you have so much debt, you could never leave your job. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, it put it on you as soon as you're a kid. They're 21 years old, $50,000 of debt on your back. Yeah. God forbid you get sick. God forbid you get married. God forbid anything happens to you, even including not being able to get a job in a crummy economy in the field that you're trying to get a job as. Like, it's debilitating. And they wonder why people are taking drugs and all this other stuff. And they're like, oh, we have an opioid addiction. Why? It's like you're an opioid just for shits and giggles. If people are taking it, like, I wonder, what is the opioid thing and somewhere like with a high happiness index, somewhere like Denmark that has the highest happiness index, I would guarantee you that the number is less in regards to people who are using drugs in those countries.
Yes.
Sarah, this has been a lot of fun. Like, honestly, this has been a lot of fun. We've for the most part talked of all sorts of stuff. Is there anything else that I haven't talked about that you would like to mention that I might have missed, that I didn't bring up, or that for whatever reason my head was in my ass and I just completely bypassed?
Well, just WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and you know, Trump, the whole campaign trail. I love WikiLeaks. I love WikiLeaks. And you know how he really is in, I mean, like,
and now it's like intelligence doctor. So what do you think he's gonna do? You think he's gonna do anything about it? I mean, it seems like he switched up on a dime, and Mike Pompeo is the one that's leading the show, trying to get him at this point. It seems like both sides are trying to get him.
Well, the only positive thing that I've noticed is that all of a sudden there was this huge announcement that England wanted to get rid of him. And Lenin was in on it. And he said, Lenin of Ecuador, the president of Ecuador, he said, yep, we're going to decide. And then all of a sudden they released a statement that said, we're not going to make a decision. I'm only going there to talk about, it was some other issue. I can't remember.
That's what he said. That's just
what he said. It turned out to be true though. It turned out to be true. Everybody, we were all hyped up going, oh shit, they're gonna put him on a plane and send him to Gitmo. I mean, we were all like wholly hyped. And there was that unity.
Well, to be fair, my cynicism is kicking in at this point. It is true that he went to Britain, but we have no idea if they didn't discuss Assange in that meeting. Like, they could have discussed, the Muffin Man for all we know. It's very possible that when he went to that meeting, they discussed Assange and they came back just to dispel any kind of hysteria that may be out there. Oh, we didn't discuss Assange. We didn't say anything about it. Wait. It's like, do you believe when Bill Clinton was talking to Loretta Lynch that the only thing they talked about was their grandkids?
Right. No.
Why, no, wait a minute. You don't believe that? Why don't you believe that? You believe that this guy went, but you don't believe that Bill Clinton, that can't keep his hands off of anybody. You honestly don't believe that they just talked about his grandkids. But Bill Clinton
It depends on what your definition of is. Okay, but no, you're absolutely right. They're probably negotiating. It
depends on what your definition of is. I love that.
Remember that? Do you remember that? I was 18 when I watched him say that. I don't know how old you were, but I was like, what a freaking liar.
I was born in 1977. I think you were born 3 years before I was. I remember that. If you were 18, I don't think I was like 21. For some reason, I remember being a kid watching that, though. At least I thought it was a kid watching that. I just remember looking at the president of the United States, looking into the camera, explaining in this weird, surreal way.
Yes.
Like it's so bizarre because it wasn't something every day that the president comes on TV to discuss and talk about. And it was just the indignity of the president of the United States looking in the mirror, talking about he had improper relations with the intern. You're like, oh, God, what?
Yes, I didn't want to hear a word of it. It was like, stop. But to your point, I don't believe that Bill and Loretta were talking about grandkids, and probably the subject of Julian Assange came up. And there was this very disturbing clip on YouTube or on Twitter that was released where they were showing taking furniture out of the embassy, which is what they did to Bradley Manning. They took away the blanket, they took away the pillow. Bradley, now Chelsea Manning, for people who don't know. And that's a part of psychological torture. First, it's to make you feel horrified and scared, and then it's to make you feel completely isolated and sad. So I can't predict. All I know is that now is the time for everybody out there. Now is the time to actually be calling the president, picking up the phone and saying, hi, my name is, Jill Jones from whatever state, and I voted for you. Or if you didn't vote for Trump, just don't even mention it, and say, I'm calling.
Him, he's not going to answer. Yeah, he's not going to respond.
Right. Well, they do tally the calls, right? Don't they tally the calls? That's what I've been told.
Yeah.
Yes, and they also, letters are the most important thing. They can't. Senators and representatives and the president are shocked when people actually take the time to write a real letter. It's just bizarre to them. So hopefully we could get a movement going where people are actually picking up the phone and calling Trump and saying, I'm calling to request safe passage for Julian Assange to Australia and a preemptive pardon of any and for the Justice Department to drop all charges against him.
It's sad that the Washington Post, New York Times are standing by while this is taking place. I mean, whether they realize it or not, they will also be susceptible to whatever takes place from the standpoint of they use to prosecute Julian Assange. And when laws are used in this way, those laws are oftentimes used in ways that they weren't necessarily intended for being used. For example, the Espionage Act. Obama was using the Espionage Act to lock up whistleblowers. It wasn't meant to be used in that way. He just used it in that way. You can even say Trump and the tariffs, in the way he's saying, oh, it's national emergency, I need to use tariffs. Now, was it meant to be used in that particular way? No, but people use laws in ways that are not intended all the time. If they're able to get away with prosecuting WikiLeaks, New York Times, Washington Post, but all of them, their asses will be on a tightrope over something like that, seeing as they themselves can also be an actor or whatever you call them for publishing that stuff. So I am, yeah, you're right. I am greatly saddened by this. Yeah, I'm greatly saddened by this. I mean, it bothers me enough that he's in that embassy in the first place. And on a second note, I don't, I suspect they released the information saying that they were talking about taking him out because they wanted to gauge the public's reaction to it. Ultimately, it's how is the public going to react when we do this? And we don't necessarily want to just do it in this kind of shock fashion way, because we don't want people freaking out in the shock fashion way. We want to give people time to adjust to the news that we're going to do this before we actually do this. So them giving us a heads up is usually just there in order to give us this kind of allowing it to settle, if that makes sense, before they actually try to do something. The question is, what are they going to do? And
that is brilliant. I did not even think of that, but that's brilliant.
Well,
a strategy. Well, and for them, but that's the government then gets to see how much pushback are we really going to get? Do people give a shit
all the time?
Well,
they float stories, and they would like, oh, this is an unacknowledged source. We couldn't necessarily push the source. It was an anonymous source who pushed us out there. We can't say who did it because it's we don't have an official announcement. Well, they don't need an official announcement. So the whole point of them doing it is to say, what is the public going to do and how they're going to respond, as opposed to, let's just grab Assange. And then people flip out like, oh my God, they just took Assange. And, people are burning down stuff and everything else. They want to know. They're trying to gauge reaction.
Well, my reaction, I am going to the White House tomorrow, in front of the White House, and I'm going to read the First Amendment. I am going to read the First Amendment, every single clause in it, the freedom of the press clause, because this is what people don't understand. They want to go on and on about, oh, Assange isn't an American citizen. The First Amendment doesn't apply to him. Take Assange out of it. WikiLeaks is the same as The Guardian, is the same as the New York Times. They're a publisher. If I don't care if Julian Assange, if he, God forbid, okay, but God forbid he had a heart attack tomorrow, somebody else would become the editor-in-chief, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's about WikiLeaks being able to publish. It's all
WikiLeaks is not going anywhere. Even if they take Assange out, WikiLeaks is still going to be going.
Thank you. I try to tell people that and they freak out. And I'm like, well, I'm just exploring all avenues. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it could happen because terrible things happen and we live on Earth, which is like the shithole war planet. So get ready. So what people really need to think about is that the First Amendment says that the government can't prevent the press from publishing a newspaper. Right. In today's day, it's NewYorkTimes.com or WikiLeaks.org. So it has nothing to do with who is publishing it where. It doesn't make a distinction in that way. Yes, it has to do with, can American people read it? Because my thought is that what the government wants to do is make it a crime for anybody in the U.S. to go to WikiLeaks.org and log on. Yeah. They want to make that URL illegal, and so we have to take what I tell all my friends. They're freaking out about Julian specifically. And they're like, Julian, we have to worry about him, free Julian Assange. And I say, that's like a third of it. I think that's true too. And I will go to all your rallies and I'll tweet all of your, Unity4J hashtag and all of your free Assange hashtag. I'm there with you. But the bigger, more important part, and I think Julian Assange himself would say this, because he's immortal. He is a mortal man that could pass in 30 years or 1 year. But WikiLeaks needs to live on, like New York Times and The Guardian, as a source of journalism. So that's the most important thing for people to know out there, everybody watching you and me talk, is that it's about WikiLeaks and freedom of the press, and the government, shall not infringe upon the right of the freedom of the press. God, yeah, that could not have said it better myself. I mean, you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right. It goes beyond just Assange, even though
as a person, you don't necessarily want to see somebody in dire straits or bad straits, especially when it's like this seems to be unfair or he seemed to be persecuted. You know what I mean? He's being persecuted because look, I've had conversations with people, and I make the argument to me is really straightforward. You have a philosophical responsibility to control your government. It's your responsibility. Either it's your government or it's not. And if it is your philosophical responsibility to have control of your government, and you choose representatives to go to Congress and, make laws and everything else, well, how do you do that if you don't know what your government is doing? And if, for all intents and purposes, there are these things that are happening in the shadows where your government is hiding, not because your government necessarily national security, but it's doing because it doesn't want to deal with waste, fraud, and abuse, or things that embarrasses it, so it hides it. How do you know that stuff? Like when stuff, say 9/11, say 9/11 happens, and people are like, oh my God, they did this because they hate us. And it's like, is it because they hate us, or has your government been doing things that it has no business doing? Whether that's in South America, whether that's in the Middle East, have your government been doing things? And then it's the public where there's this gap in cognition of what's taking place. Because for the most part, Republicans have paid no mind to this stuff. It's almost like the government has been like a Frankenstein monster running roughshod over the world, and the American public is blissfully unaware of what's taking place. Assange is providing a magnificently useful item in the sense of saying, this is what your government is doing. And no, you didn't necessarily know, but you know now, do something about it. I think, the saddest part to me was, it was responding with a hunch. It was like, it's like, but he's just told you that your government was breaking the law.
Yes. The same with Snowden. Snowden told us that every single email that you and I send, it's all getting stored in the Utah data center. And people are literally like, I don't have anything to hide. And it's
I hate that argument. God, I hate that argument.
Yes, it's crazy.
I hate that argument. Well, Sarah, thank you very much. I hope I didn't keep you for too long. The progressive patriot, ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Reynolds. Where can they find you, by the way?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I just want to say this was so fun. I had such a great time.
I had a damn good time. This was awesome.
Messages2millennials.com.
Say it again. Say it one more time.
Messages2millennials.com. And then, of course, on Twitter, I'm Sarah__Reynolds.
Very cool. All right, guys, let me see. Make sure I didn't miss any super chats or anything like that. Sometimes people send, hashtag, his name was Seth Rich, hashtag unity for Jay, hashtag pardon Julian Assange. That came from Alistair Mraz. Pardon Julian Assange is right. God, man, if Trump turns around after screaming Julian Assange's name as much as he did during the during the election, and then all of a sudden prosecutes him, God, that would suck.
I'm going to be devastated. I'm literally praying and then calling and then reading the First Amendment in front of the White House.
Would you do a video like crying on camera, like screaming at Trump like Alex Jones did? Did you see when there's this awesome episode of Alex Jones where I don't watch Alex Jones, but this one was just absolutely particularly funny, where Trump bombed Syria. And you had a bunch of conservatives who were pissed off at Trump. Like, this was when I was like, oh God, there's a left-right thing going on here where we agree on this particular thing. We don't like the bombing. We want this to be focused at home. And Alex Jones comes out and flips out at Donald Trump. And he's like losing it in this great way. He's like, these fucking cocksuckers. Can nobody be like, he's losing it. Like, he's going, and you're like, yeah, I agree with him on I agree with him on this. He's not talking about lizard people, nothing crazy. He's talking about Donald Trump bombing Syria, and he's like, goddamn Russians helped us fight the Nazis. Like, he's going way into the weeds.
Yes, he freaked out. He was literally having a breakdown, like on camera.
It was awesome. It was awesome. It was awesome. God, it was awesome. All right.
But no, I would not make a video like that. No.
Somebody was like, we need you to do a video with watching Sanders fight Rand Paul, because we want to see the light die out in your eyes as Sanders goes on this Russian nonsense over and over again, against Rand Paul.
I wish Sanders would lay off on that.
I think every day that Sanders is talking about that is a day that Sanders is putting a knife in Bernie Sanders.
Yep.
That's what I think.
It's devastating to watch.
Let's see, Wesley Walker Jr. I know all about forced overtime. That shit is stupid. If volunteer, it's absolute. Hate it when my employer forces 9 hours on Saturdays and then do it constantly. Oh God, yeah. Yep. Jay Scott, ask her if all people should have health care. Yeah, Jay, she believes that all people should have health care. She said it herself.
Oh,
I think you voted for Trump.
Well, yes. And did the person who wrote that, I hope that person knows that Trump actually said that we should have a Canadian-style single-payer healthcare system 20 years ago. So there's hope in his heart. I'm going to dig in there. Jamal, I'm going to teleport into Trump's heart. Go, I'll see it. You want single-payer healthcare, Mr. Trump.
All right. Fair enough. I am flamboyantly skeptical, like overtly skeptical with steroids and a jetpack. But look, you never know. If you got Trump 20 years ago by himself and you just say, hey, should people have healthcare? He may say yes. Like now, you get him in politics where he has a bunch of people talking in his ear, whispering in his ear, and he goes hard right. Because keep in mind, Trump at one point was a Democrat.
Right.
And so he goes hard right because he believes he needs to go hard right. He's like, do you think people should have healthcare? Well, that's a different conversation now. You know what I mean? It's like when Obama was running in the Senate, I think he was in a state Senate, and they asked him about gay marriage. He was for gay marriage. Yeah, gay marriage is great. You get him in the White House, I need to evolve on this issue.
Yes. Yep.
You know, it's that dichotomy between what they believe versus what they say because they're running with political sides. Like, does Bernie Sanders really believe the Russia stuff? Maybe, maybe not.
No, he doesn't. I mean, but you know what? That Obama story is perfect because Obama was for gay marriage the whole time. He was just saying that so he could get elected. And I think that Trump really does still think we need some single payer. He is an employer. I guarantee you Trump hates paying for the insurance premium, his half of the insurance premium. For his
that I do believe. Yeah, that I agree with you on. I do agree.
And he is the one man on our planet, I think, who could actually convince the American people, look, you're getting screwed. It's like asking the insurance companies to screw you. Could you stop doing that? But only it has to come from Trump, not me, not you. It has to come from him.
Look, if Trump made that argument, Republicans, meaning regular Republicans, would go for it.
But regular working class people, like I will not call myself a Republican. I think there's because do you know this is the bizarre thing? Is 60% of Americans call themselves centrist, do not call themselves Republican or Democrat?
Yes.
Like those are the people that voted for him. And some of them voted for Hillary, obviously. But I mean, there's most Americans, the majority of Americans want health insurance reform or to get rid of health insurers altogether. I think Trump is the perfect person to go, look, this is the math. Stop lying.
But he's never going to do that.
He might.
He's never going to do that.
I think he will.
I love this wisp of a dream. It's like,
no, you know what? You know what? Let's bet $50 on it. Well, did we bet $50 on something else too?
Oh, are we betting for real? We're betting.
Yes. So let's bet $50 in the second term. The second term, because he's going to win. So we bet $50 that he's going to win.
Well, I don't think. Well, it depends on who runs.
Okay. All right. So we'll table that bet. Let's table that bet.
I think the first bet was: is Bernie Sanders going to run for president?
No.
You don't think so?
Nope.
I think
Trump's going to win is a second bet.
All right. I think he's going to run.
Okay.
All right. So let me see. We need to put $50 somewhere where everybody knows. Here's the thing. When Hillary Clinton was running in the race, when I was at my other job, and I was, there was a Hillary Clinton supporter at the job. It was all of them were Hillary supporters, all of them.
Yeah.
And I was the Bernie supporter who was pissed off because they cheated my guy. And so I'm looking at the map and I'm like, look, if Hillary Clinton wins this election, or if she breaks, how can I say it? If Hillary Clinton wins the election, I'm saying this poorly, but if Hillary Clinton wins the election, I'll wear a Hillary Clinton t-shirt. And if Bernie Sanders or if Donald Trump wins or breaks 300, you wear a t-shirt. Like it was something to that effect. I forget the numbers. I think it was like 273. But if Bernie Sanders, if Donald Trump hit a particular number or Hillary Clinton wins. So it was that thing. Hillary Clinton loses and he doesn't wear the shirt. And I'm like, you bastard. And I put the shirt in his office so that shirt would mock him every day that he wouldn't own up to that goddamn bet. I was like, you bastard. But
no, I make good on my bets.
Oh,
I bet a box of Cheez-Its once, and I paid it.
That's the first thing that came to mind when I thought of it. But I was like, that rat bastard. We need to put this somewhere that everybody knows, so everybody can be like, all right. So Bernie Sanders, $50, $50 whole bucks. Or whether Bernie Sanders,
he's not going to run.
You don't believe he's going to run?
He is not going to run.
All right, I believe he's going to run.
All right,
I think he's going to run. It's going to
2020. We're talking.
It's going to hurt me to take your cash, but I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it. All right.
Okay.
Or whether Bernie Sanders run in 2020.
And Trump is going to win in 2020 is my other $50.
Well, see, I can't bet that one because I don't know who's going to run. That would be a conditional bet.
Oh, now, okay. So tentatively, if he run against Bernie?
If Bernie Sanders runs, Sanders trounces Trump.
No way.
You don't think Sanders beats Trump?
Bernie would have beat Trump the first time, but now Trump's going to win because he's going to have the momentum of all the things he did.
I will take another $50 away from you.
Yep. I'm gonna. You know what? You can PayPal me the 100. Boom.
All right. So another conditional bet. If Bernie Sanders wins, now the beauty of this is, if Bernie Sanders is running against Trump, I already got $50. So I don't lose anything at that point. So that's great. So Bernie Sanders. All right. So if Bernie Sanders wins the primary and he goes Trump, and you're saying Trump is going to win that contest.
Yep. And then you can pay me $50 more.
Wow.
Or no, I've already paid you the 50, so then we break even. But yes, do it, yes. But I don't think Bernie's going to run. But okay.
You really don't think he's going to run? Like he's
going to run in 2024. I want him to run in 2024.
He's going to be in a wheelchair.
No, he could. I want him to win, and he will in 2024.
Bernie Sanders is going to be like 110 years old in 2024.
I think it'd be like 78, right?
No, he's 78 now. Bernie Sanders is 78 now. Like he's going to be like 81. He's going to be the oldest president, if I'm not mistaken. I think when Ronald Reagan came out the presidency, senile, he was like 81 or something to that effect. No, seriously, Ronald Reagan was senile when he came out the presidency.
I didn't know that. Okay, all right.
Yeah, he was rather senile, maybe strong. He wasn't rap type. He was in his amnesia phase.
Okay, and then another $50 that Trump gets us at least discussing some sort of single payer in the second term.
Discussing? What does that mean, discussing?
No, let's say the reform of...
Well, that could be Trump care.
No, I want to lose the $50. I want to lose it because this gives me an incentive to fight for it.
Uh-oh.
So something that, what should we say, 80% reduces the existence of insurance companies. Like buying private insurance becomes an optional thing that you can do to supplement your medicare for all.
You think
$50
Trump in the second term is going to do medicare for all?
With some sort of compromise that gets the insurance companies like, oh, we can still sell our supplementary stuff.
All right. So how do we articulate that? Because you seem to be in a really good mood of giving away cash.
That's how the NHS, but that is how it is in England, where they have a supplement.
Yeah,
they do have a private insurance industry. It's just tiny.
Yeah, it's like private and thing. I was there in England, and he was saying like if you're a bum on the street, you're getting healthcare, hands down. Yeah. If you needed some procedure that may take a while, you can go through private insurance if you had it. Like it was like this mixture between the two. All right.
And there is too long of a delay. I just want to say, I think the delay is too long in England and Canada. But we can eliminate that by doing a ton of preventative stuff like chiropractic and other stuff.
The plan.
Yes.
We do it in American, whatever. Hell, call it Trump care.
We'll make it better than theirs.
It's like whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
I got to be honest. I don't want to take your money on this one because I think you're so wrong on this one that I feel bad.
No, but that means I have 6 years to earn that $50. I want to fight for it. Jamal, I need a monetary incentive. Otherwise I'll sit here and go, well, maybe we'll get single player. Boo-hoo. Looks like it's not going my way.
How about this? How about a gentleman's bet for single payer? Because you're already giving me $100. I'm going to put it towards. I'm just gonna,
No, for real.
I don't know what the Sanders say. I don't know if Sanders is going to run in 2020. I think he is, but that's why I love this bet, because I think this is a good bet.
Okay.
The Bernie first versus Trump. I think Trump is going to get trounced. So I'm okay with making this bet because that's a no lose bet for me. Even if it makes it to this point. Now, because this becomes a no bet at that point, I guess, if he's not running. The single payer healthcare thing, though, that just seems so outlandish to me. I would be shocked as shit, man. God damn it. I would be shocked as shit. Don't get me wrong. I would be happy. I would happily give you the money for that particular bet if that was the case. Happily.
Okay, good. Because then I'll give you the money if I'm wrong.
I don't want you to give. Oh God, I feel bad.
And you can give it to this Medicare-for-all single payer grassroots movement. Or do you want that to be the bet? I give $50 to them. No, I want to give you the $50 and you can go out and have a beer and celebrate life.
I feel some kind of way taking your money.
I love it. And that's 6 years. I got 6 years to be wrong.
You do have 6 years to be wrong. That's true. And I could drop dead in that time frame. I'd feel some kind of way if you drop dead in that time frame and you don't pay me, though. I'd be like, God damn it, I knew she wasn't going to pay up. No, I'm teasing. All right, single payer. My audience is probably screaming, oh my God, she's lost it.
I one time bet a box of Cheez-Its, and you know what? I just gave that Cheez-Its away. I deserved it. I lost fair and square.
All right, fair enough. So Bernie Sanders, I think the biggest one is Bernie Sanders in 2020. That's the one I am most curious about. That's the one I am. And look, if Sanders and Trump, I am also curious about that one. Those are the two main ones I'm curious about. The Medicare for all, let's make that a gentleman's bet. I feel some kind of way. My lefty part of me is kicking in. It's like, oh God, you can't take her money. She's too nice of a person. You can't take her money.
Well, do you drink coffee?
Yes, I do drink coffee.
Okay, how about I'll buy you a pound of coffee, or you buy me a pound of coffee?
Fair enough. Or Starbucks or something like that. I mean, it sounds like where are you located, by the way?
I'm in DC.
Oh, you're in DC.
I
was just in DC. It was just in DC. I was on Fault Lines this morning with Garland Nixon and Lee Stranahan. They have a show in the mornings on Sputnik.
Cool.
Yeah, I was just there.
That's awesome. Did you tweet the link? Because I love that stuff.
Yeah, it's I don't know, honestly. It is on Twitter, it is on YouTube, and it is on some radio station. I don't know the radio station, but
Stranahan usually tweets it too.
Oh yeah, they do.
Okay, cool.
They do. It's there.
So a pound of coffee then.
A pound of coffee, fair enough. A pound of coffee to the loser. So single payer, pound of coffee for the loser. Where's my ink pen? I need another ink pen. All right, pound of coffee. All right, pound of coffee.
That's going to taste so good. I can't wait to put it through a French press.
Honestly, I would love for you to get that pound of coffee.
Yes,
you have no idea how much I would love for you to get that pound of coffee. But man, it is going to feel great to see the light dim in your eyes when you hand it over.
No, you know what? I'm going to take it. You're going to give it to me, and I'm going to make French press with Potomac water. And then we're going to cheers. Single payer.
Single payer healthcare.
Yes.
All right. Bernie Sanders, man, Bernie, don't let me down, Bernie. Now, I'm curious, when Bernie runs, I don't know who he's going to take as his thing. Now, you might be right. Bernie Sanders might say, look, I'm too old to run. I'm just going to pass my torch on to somebody else. It just sounds like he's trying to gear up.
No, did you hear Elizabeth Warren the other day say, oh, I'm a tried and true capitalist. I'm a capitalist, red-blooded capitalist.
That sounds about right.
What she's doing is she's setting the stage for, I'm liberal, but I'm a capitalist, not a socialist. I think she's going to run. I think that the establishment wants her to run because they know that whoever runs against Trump will lose, which is fine with me because then Bernie can run in 2024 from the wheelchair, from the nursing home, from the government, from the new government-run nursing home that is not that single payer
government health care that Trump gave him. Right. Oh God, that's hilarious.
Yes. So I think Warren is going to win. That would be my I think Warren is going to run. That would be my prediction.
See, I think Kamala Harris. I think Cory Booker, maybe. I think Joe Biden is thinking about it. I think Sanders, and I think Warren. I think Warren may try to run.
Okay, all right. That'd be an interesting primary.
Man, that is going to be a massive, cage match of a primary. Like the first time around, if Sanders was running in the contest, it was against Clinton. And this time around, I think he's established himself as a name. The question becomes, how does he function in a situation where you have multiple people who are jockeying for position to try to, show their bona fides? And I got to be honest, I don't know. I honestly don't know. So, Sarah, the progressive patriot, this has been an awesome conversation. I've loved it.
So fun. Thank you so much for having me on. This was such a blast.
Coming on. This was a blast. All right, guys, I'm going to end this here. If you guys enjoyed the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. And of course, you guys can always support the Patreon. Thanks, everyone.